Good day, Crown Council world. Steve Anderson here at Crown Council Live. We're excited to be with you today. And on behalf of the Crown Council team, I'm flying solo today. So this doesn't happen very often. And I'm excited to host today. So we've got a really important program today that we're going to start here in just a minute. I wanted to do some fun updates for everybody. First off, I'm going to share my screen. Let's talk about the Smiles for Life campaign. So we are in the final stretches of Smiles for Life 2025. And the most updated results are in. This is from last week's results. And big hats off, big cheers for Smiles for Centerville in Centerville, Virginia, Dr. Bruce Hutchison and Dr. Michael Gorman and their amazing team. They had awesome results last week. And they're also in one of the top producing offices in the country, over 12 grand so far. So congratulations to the Smiles for Centerville team. And Dr. Justin Beasley in Oklahoma City. Big winner last week and some great results. So the donations continue to roll in. As you know, we wrap up the campaign the end of June, so that's coming up. So important to get all your remaining donations in for the campaign year. And then we shift gears into donation time where we get to give all the money away to the local charity of your choice and some of the bigger national and international projects we have going on. So thanks for the amazing effort. This continues to be the biggest charity campaign in dentistry, doing good and making a lot of people smile. So keep up the great work and thank you for that. Big update on the Crown Council annual event coming up in January, which seems like it's a long time away, but it is. It's coming up. So this is going to be in one of our favorite destinations, which is Salt Lake City, Utah, at the Grand America Hotel, which was the headquarters hotel for the 2002 Winter Olympics, and very well may be the headquarters for the Winter Olympics. Coming up, the Winter Olympics are coming back to Salt Lake City. So you can go to crowncouncil.com/annual event for all that information. It is going to be an amazing experience for the entire team. Also coming up is for the first time is our Forever Young program. That's coming up this fall in November in Fort Worth. This is an outgrowth of the Young Dentist program. And the beautiful thing about this, and the reason we called it Forever Young, is it is age unlimited. So no matter how many years you've been in practice, this is about mindset, not chronological age. So we encourage everybody to come. It's going to be 2 days of primarily clinical updates of what you can do to keep your clinical mindset forever young, innovative, and staying at the leading edge of what's going on clinically in dentistry. So information on that is at crowncouncil.com/Forever Young program. Again, it's going to be 2 days in Fort Worth with Dr. Dave Hornbrook and some of his special invited clinicians. That'll keep all of us with a forever young mindset. So also coming up this fall is the TOPS Total Immersion course, also in Fort Worth. So we consider this basic training for every Crown Council team member and team. 2 days of case acceptance, systems, ideas, verbal skills. We have Crown Council teams that send every new team member through this as part of their new employee registration orientation. It is one of the foundational programs to the Crown Council culture. So that's at totalpatientservice.com, and looking forward to a great experience coming up first part of October. So today, we announced last week the beginning of National Safety Month. And we've got some great programming this month. Last week, we had some great OSHA updates. Next week, we're going to have a special webinar from Protect It Dental on emergency preparedness and what you need to do in the unlikely event of an unpleasant occurrence, whether it's a patient with a medical emergency or any other kind of emergency in the office. How to keep everyone physically safe in the office. So that's coming up next Thursday. Today, we're going to talk about cyber safety, cyber security, and our expert in this area is the team from Control Alt Protect. Brent Pinnell and his team are some of the best in the country. They get to deal with two primary things, and Brent, I'm gonna if you clean me up on this, but what they love to do is keep everybody safe so that you have the setup, so you have the peace of mind of knowing that you are cyber secure. The other part of their time is they are the cleanup team. So in the event of a cyber attack, their team comes in to put everything back in place, help track down the bad guys, and get your business back online. So Brent and his team have continued to have some of the best experience in the industry. And what we have asked him to share today is what every Crown Council team can do to stay safe, to be safe in the increasingly dark world of cyber world. The internet's an amazing place and is helping us do great stuff. And with that great stuff also comes the dark side. So Brent's going to give us, we've asked him today to give us the most up-to-date what's going on in the area of cybersecurity. It is one of the biggest issues in the whole IT world, continues to be, and what you can do to stay safe, keep all your programs safe, keep your patient data safe, your practice data safe, and be safe online. So National Safety Month, cybersecurity today. Brent, welcome, and thanks for being with us today.
Thank you so much, Steve. It's great to be back with you. I'm going to start sharing my slides here that we've prepared. Yeah, you're spot on with prevention is key, and we pride ourselves in being laser focused in hacking detection. You know, we tell our clients that when hackers arrive, we're there to greet them, and we've become synonymous in the industry with that ability. So
you're the guy they don't want to meet.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. You know, years ago, through our partnership with the Feds and Internet Crimes Division, one of the ransomware director for the FBI made a joke. I had a very large client with me, and he was, when I say large, he's probably 6'2", 300 pounds. And she made a joke when she figured out he was my client. She said, "I thought he was part of your security detail." And then I quickly looked at her and said, "Do I need security detail?" And she said, "Probably." So she said, "You're hated in Russia, so hackers hate us" became our tagline very quickly.
There you go.
But so I'll dig in if you'd like me to.
Yeah, let's do it.
On what, you know, HIPAA HITECH, obviously a lot of confusion, I would say, is the proper description on what's happening with HIPAA and HITECH. Get my
and Brent, just for clarification for those who might not know, HIPAA HITECH is a whole additional set of regulations that are now part of the HIPAA laws that have to do with cybersecurity and keeping electronic records and information safe. So this is a new addition. I think they came into place earlier this year. Is that right?
Correct. And they've been, HITECH has been around for a little bit longer, but there's been a significant emphasis on it. And we're going to talk a little bit today about why this is necessary. You know, I've often been asked, well, where are the HIPAA police, right? Where are they?
Right.
What does it look like? So what are your risks? Why is this happening? Why is the government focusing so much on privacy and data security and protecting patient information? Just a little bit about me. Obviously, I've been ethically hacking. Say we don't hack without identification or court order, and also certified in mobile and digital forensics. So we do see the worst. We are hired by insurance companies or entities to forensically attest to how the hacker got in, how much data was actually spilled, and then was it properly remediated. And so we do a lot of expert witnessing and affidavits attesting to forensics associated with cyber attacks. So I'm going to dig into why HHS has doubled down on EHR protection.
Hey,
So,
and Brett,
yeah,
if you're trying to share your slides, I don't think we're up yet.
Is it not? Let's
No.
see. Sorry about that.
All good.
Are we up now?
I'm not showing them on my screen.
Interesting.
There you go.
We're good now?
Okay, we're up. We are up and running.
Thank you, Zoom. We appreciate that. So, why have we doubled down on protection? Prior to high tech, only 10% of hospitals were actually adopting best practice procedures. So fines and penalties are really the only way the government has implemented to force the change in behavior with privacy and security rules associated with HIPAA. The reality is it's expensive. We know that. Statistics prove without that fear or accountability fines, we're just going to be compliant. We're going to check boxes. And that's unfortunate. It's just sort of the reality of the American way associated with cybersecurity controls or HIPAA compliance. Our healthcare system is still fragmented. We still have weak security standards overall and safeguards protecting medical data. But checked box medical practices have become very, very easy targets for actors like I've mentioned. PRC is the People's Republic of China, or the Beijing Genomics Institute. So they're looking to get all the patient data for economic trending, genomic research capabilities, and then they're filing fraudulent claims on those expensive treatments. So why have they doubled down? These risks by foreign actors do pose significant risks to our economy and our national security. High tech does not make compliance mandatory. It does require you to report breaches. And also, every state in the United States has a breach notification act. So again, it's just another second layer of the government doubling down. And it does give OCR the power to enforce fines against dental practices or any medical entity that does not properly file or report. As a nation, we've spent billions on promoting electronic health record usage. But as I state there, it's playing perfectly into the nefarious actor's hand. As we're migrating to cloud, as we're using and working remotely, it is truly the perfect storm, because now we have all these vulnerabilities that are associated with electronic devices that, if you don't have the proper security controls and configurations, you really cannot stop or detect to begin with. So the reality of our world is that both small and large healthcare organizations are targeted the same. I often hear dentists specifically say, and you guys probably can figure this out, we work with, Fortune 100 companies down to mom and pop. But it never ceases to amaze me, and I say this respectfully, at the mentality of a dentist oftentimes, or a small CPA firm, or a small ENT firm. ear, nose, and throat. They'll say, "Well, Brent, I'm just so small. Why did they target me?" Hackers do not care about your size. It's about quantity for them, not quality. They're going to use you, your collateral damage, but whatever data you have is valuable. It's very valuable, as we mentioned with the two groups, the nation state groups in the prior slide. Let's talk about facts. Again, I'm a forensic data security investigator, so I try to stay away from opinions. Let's talk about what's the reality, what is factual. The HITECH Act ensures both the organization, right, the entity, and the business associate and vendors are compliant with HIPAA's privacy and the HIPAA security rules. It makes all practice team members directly liable for reporting breaches or compliance violations to the owner, so it would be you or the partner, to the covered entity within 5 days. That's a major change. That's a significant change. And you have to take the same steps if you know of an associate or any of your associates within the practice are aware of a HIPAA violation or bad habit, if you will, or a third party. That has to be documented properly and reported. So I always get the question, Brent, I'm not perfect on HIPAA, HITECH. How do we get caught? So I took the liberty of going online, being the nerd that I am, and looking at the dental practices, and just didn't take me long to find a couple that are currently under investigation by OCR. Park Place in Arlington, and again, this is public knowledge, so it's no disrespect to these victims, but I want to give you the facts. They just had a lost laptop. This is an export. This yellowish, the highlighted area on my screen is an export from the public database that's out there on the website, on OCR's website. You notice the top one is Children's Dental Care at Preston Trail. That's doing business. That's Park Place Dentistry. They only breached 1,690 records. It was a lost laptop situation. The practice didn't report it. And just that small laptop scenario will cost them at least $464,000. It's $275 per personally identifiable record. That's PII. This is a legal term used. Sango Family Dentistry out of Clarksville, Tennessee. Just to give you a comparison on the other end of the scale, Park Place with a stolen laptop is what we would consider to be a smaller cyber incident or reportable scenario. Sango, on the flip side, suffered from what we call invisible ransomware back in October of last year. We're looking at $10 million. There's a website dedicated to the incident, branded by Sango Family Dentistry. I welcome you to review that.
So Brent, just so I understand this, so in that case, they didn't report it, but the hacker did. So when the hacker get the ransom they wanted, then they turned him in as having had a data breach, and they didn't.
Correct.
So they
offered, the ransom was $2.5 million. And good for them for not paying the ransom. That's funding organized crime and terrorism. That's how you have to look at it. So they didn't pay it, but the actor warned, if you don't pay it, you're gonna pay in other ways. And so they actually reported to the DA's office in Tennessee with a CSV file and said, we've stolen the following medical data records from Sango Family Dentistry. This is a very common, it's becoming more and more common, especially with the sophisticated actors that are targeting medical. One BGI that I mentioned, BGI has done a lot of hacking, and they're partnering with a lot of ransomware groups and a lot of what we call APT, data exfiltration hacking groups from nation state nation state actors. So that's the link there for the Healthcare Hall of Shame. But yeah, Sango's an interesting case because they didn't encrypt the files. They just took all their data and said, we have it, pay us or we're going to report it. They didn't. And then they went back later and this was a long drawn out event, did finally do encryption to show them that they could. And then they still wouldn't pay it. So they definitely, they had a mess on their hands with that case. Fines are going up. They were adjusted for, you see, quote unquote, inflation costs last year. So now the maximum annual penalty. So if you're, keeping the tab here, this gets expensive really fast. So the government means business. This is not going away. HITECH is just another, it's the tip of the iceberg, to be frank with you. It is. You can't run from security controls and best practices anymore, not in 2025. So that's taken directly from the site, but that has increased. The burden of proof has changed as well. Before HITECH, DHS had to prove the violation resulted in an unauthorized disclosure. So the burden was on them to prove that there was, patient information, sensitive information disclosed. Now, with HITECH, that's been reversed. So you are guilty until proven innocent, so to speak. The dentist must prove the violation did not result in unauthorized disclosure. So without security controls, without cyber policy, without governance, without monitoring, adequate network and log-based data collection of your traffic, what we call aggregating telemetry and seeing what's really happening and what your associates are doing when they're browsing the internet, where is your burden of proof? So if you don't have the security controls, you can't defend yourself in today's technological environment. So how do we achieve HITECH compliance? First and foremost, the worst thing you can do is to start doing a HIPAA gap analysis. And that's the tendency. Well, I need to go ahead and just pay somebody to do a HIPAA gap analysis. No, that's not what I recommend. Because respectfully, your security controls are not there. And let's all be honest with ourselves. In most cases, the dentists that we see fall victim, and how do you get caught? You're going to get caught because you're going to get hacked. Once you get hacked, that's how you get caught. That's the fastest way to get caught with a HITECH or HIPAA violation. But let's face it, most of us have not invested in the proper hardware, software, or security controls that are needed to be compliant. So the first thing we need to do is a technology threat assessment. And it's more cost effective than the HIPAA gap analysis. And it's moving the needle in the right direction. So don't ask your IT guy to do this. First of all, you can't grade your own homework. But secondly, you need to know that your IT guy or girl or company, that they're doing what they should be doing and you're getting what you're paying for. In so many cases, I've had to unfortunately testify against the IT provider because they're actually presenting more risk to the organization than arguably even phishing attacks. Hackers know, the sophisticated hackers of this world know that you have an IT person that you trust or an IT company, but they also know that you don't know how to audit what they're delivering. So a technology threat assessment is absolute must-have for our crowns. Then we implement safeguards and security controls that align with best practices from those findings. Then we need to develop policies that make sense for your practice. If our policies don't match what we do every day, then they're not worth the paper they're written on. So commonly when we're partnering with our dentist specifically, they'll look at a policy and say, are you really going to document it that way? Yeah, of course, because that's real world. And if there's an incident, the truth, the facts, the purity of that document shows an auditor that we are telling the truth, that we're not checking boxes. That's what's gotten us in trouble. That's why our country's in the position it is. And we have all these problems. And that's why HITECH was created, to try to curb those bad practices and bad habits. Train your team. It is so important that you train them continuously. What gets talked about gets done. And as things are changing, as threats are evolving, training is really the greatest defense you have, because you're only as strong as your weakest link, and your associates really need continuous training throughout each year. Ensure your IT guy, the company, your lab. I mean, you're spending a lot of money on lab, right? It's probably one of your greatest expenses. Your team are locked down. Permissions, role-based permissions. What we see in dental practices so many times are shared passwords, or the architecture of the organization is just not where it needs to be. It's archaic and it's causing unbelievable amounts of risk. And so if you're listening to me and you're watching this, or we'll watch it later, it's really a decision of how do you offset your vulnerabilities, but further, what are your vulnerabilities? But limiting access is one of the fastest ways to be move that compliance needle and achieve compliance, a compliance position. We need to encrypt everywhere, literally everywhere. Multi-factor authentication everywhere. It blows my mind how many personal emails are not protected anymore. How many practices do not have multi-factor enforced in their world. Passwords are stolen every second. Not having multi-factor today is just like leaving your doors open over the weekend for theft. It's so easy to get hacked without multi-factor. Number 7 is one that will hit all of you heavy. Retention. We've got to purge the old data. We have to have a retention policy. I know it hurts. I understand. It's your calling and you want to take care of that patient, and having that historical data is so important. But we've reached a point in this technological age where the more that you store, the more that you salvage, the more risk and more legal risk and more financial risk that you have. If you look back at the Sango scenario, the server was totally copied, or all the data was exfiltrated out of that. And that's why, they breached 27,000 records.
Whew.
They didn't have a retention policy.
Wow.
They had not done a technology threat assessment. They had not invested in security controls. And so the hacker got everything. And that number, if you look at your cyber policy, that commonly sends you, and I know for most of you, it's your malpractice, it's called MALP, MALP, your malpractice policy. Many of you have a cyber rider that's on the side, right? It's the side dish of your main malpractice policy. Well, how much are they really going to pay?
Not much.
Right. And they're going to ask you, because they're going to ask you security controls. They're going to ask you, are you doing security awareness training? And you have to attest to that. What security controls? Prove to me that you didn't check the boxes. Prove to us, give us the burden of proof that you have been actively and aggressively focused on protecting data and preventing this cyber incident. They often send cyber ransomware supplemental applications. And what we commonly see with dental practices is they let their IT person fill those out. Those are attestations, legal attestations of the current state of your cybersecurity of your practice. If your IT person or you have checked, yes, I have multi-factor enforced, and you don't, and that's the vector, they're paying nothing. because that's an exclusion for them. So 6 years is what you need for HIPAA, but purge the data, get a retention policy. Don't put more data at risk than is necessary.
Most business owner policies for dental practices, there's a little bit of cyber coverage, but it doesn't pay a lot. I mean, it's like maybe the limit is like $5,000 to $10,000, which that won't pay for anything. And so an actual cyber policy is really what everybody needs. Am I on track?
Correct. Absolutely. And what we have to do is change the way we look at our practices. Ask yourself, outside of the souls on board, outside of you and your dental practice team, what is more important to that practice than the data? What's more important than the data? Nothing. So my challenge is, do your finances, do your budgets align with that priority? And in most cases, not. There's a trend. At the last Crown Council annual meeting, I had several dentists ask me the same question. Why are we targeted so heavily? And I always say this with the utmost respect, because dentists pay ransoms.
There you go.
It's just true, because if you're true to yourself, we get frustrated when those schedules aren't full, because that's missed revenue, right? How are you going to sit in your practice for 2 to 3 weeks with all your data encrypted? Or in the case that we mentioned earlier, it's $10 million plus in liability to this practice now, because what I didn't mention on that slide are the class action lawsuits that are following for both of those practices, by the way. So this gets really litigious really fast. So why not just invest in security controls up front and avoid all this and stay in the chair, right? It's really not, we just have to change the way we look at data, because it is so vital and so important to delivering what you're called to do. So once we've done a technology threat assessment, once we've taken care of the low-hanging fruit from a security standpoint, we've governed and audited our IT professionals. We know how our vendors are moving data, how they're storing data. Once we self-reflect and we start improving our posture, now we can do a HIPAA gap analysis. But don't lead out with that, because you're going to spend money that you don't need to spend, and you're not moving the needle far enough anyway. So you don't recommend an implant. I use that before taking x-rays. There's no point in paying for a HIPAA gap analysis until you've completed a true technology threat assessment. You've got to maintain policies, a cybersecurity plan, a business continuity plan, a disaster recovery plan. How are you going to recover that data? How often is your IT provider testing your backups and making sure they can restore from it? Are they what we call immutable? Are they stored and truly encrypted at rest, separate from the network, so that if the network's compromised, that island is not affected? We have to test and prove that you're ready with a business continuity plan, disaster recovery plan, training reports, gap analysis, access controls. Who's auditing the firewall? Never ceases to amaze me. The traffic of the firewall so many times has been alerting the practice or the IT person, hey, there's a problem here. We go into a ransomed dental practice. Had the IT person been monitoring it properly or been trained to identify the indications of compromise, the crisis could have been avoided. But the reality is we're trusting the wrong surgeon to do heart surgery. They're professionals. This is not disrespect to them. I know you love them. I know that they fix everything when it's broken, and they help you get logged back in. And I know you have great relationships with them, but you can't ask them to do heart surgery. They're not heart surgeons. There's a major difference between HIPAA compliance and being cyber safe, high-tech compliant, than keeping things working. So documentation proves and gives you the burden of proof to show that you're committed to prevention. That's why I mentioned Papers for Honest People. And it does diffuse the regulators. When they start investigating, they see that documentation, they back off pretty quickly. So what are our secrets? How do we stay in the chair? You must invest in cyber detection. How are you going to stop it if you can't detect it? It's got to be monitored 24/7. You got to have a true partner, a consultant, to walk you through, hey, you're spending too much money on this. We need to move this. You know, your IT guys got you doing this. Well, okay, I understand you have an on-prem server. Is that necessary? There's so many conversations that need to take place to make sure you're spending money on technology where you need to. And then this is what people miss a lot. High tech, HIPAA, and cyber, they're almost the same. They go hand in hand. Cybersecurity best practices and high tech HIPAA, it's virtually the same. It's all about protecting the data. So engage a consultant, a technology or cyber consultant who can do more than just keep you logged in and keep things working. You do need a trusted supervisor, policing or managing and holding your IT teams accountable so that you can drill and create smiles for life. And when disaster strikes, you can't wait. You have to report it. You're legally liable to do so because the penalties, as you've seen from the previous slides, are truly unreal. And again, I did not show the stats for the class action because they're still pending for both of those cases. So that gives us a pretty good overview of what HIPAA high-tech means, the changes associated, how there's now a legal liability for both you and all the associates of the practice to ensure that you're compliant and that you're committed to it. And look, Rome wasn't built in a day. It's not feasible to do an assessment and fix a couple of things. This is a journey. Whether you're talking high-tech compliance, HIPAA compliance, or you're talking cybersecurity, you don't have to do everything overnight. You should have a well-planned cybersecurity plan that incorporates the assets that you have. Maybe when do we need to purchase new assets? Do we need to fundamentally look at our technology differently? What trajectory do we need to move our practice? We need to future-proof the practice with the changes in technology. The reality is with AI, do you have an AI policy now? Or can your team, can they just download and use any AI agent they want to? I highly recommend that that's governed because look at any AI generated CEO and look at their press conferences. They're publicly stating, we really don't know what all is happening. So we have to govern AI. It's awesome. It's absolutely powerful. We use it in cyber defense. So I love the benefits, but we've got to be responsible with AI. We can't just, take the guardrails off and not govern it to some degree. The same thing's true with your vendors that you're using, your lab. How are they processing your data? How are they encrypting the data? Is it encrypted all the time? I don't know. We need to look. All those things present you with risk now more than they ever have. So hopefully, Steve, that gives a pretty good overview. Obviously, could talk about each of those individual subsets that I covered 30 minutes each, I'm sure. But it's a good overview, a 10,000 foot flyover of what our crowns need to know, what direction they need to head in. But the key is what's more important than your data. And achieving compliance goes far beyond just getting a HIPAA gap analysis. Another box that's checked. We really have to critique our daily operations, the astuteness of our IT providers, and the responsible behaviors of the vendors we trust.
Excellent. Thank you, Brent. All right. Couple of questions. You ready?
Go ahead.
All right. Question number one. Can Can you explain the difference between a HIPAA gap analysis and a technology threat assessment? What's the difference between the two?
Yeah, it's a great question. So a HIPAA gap analysis is going to focus on the HIPAA security rules. There's definitely some overlap between that and a technology threat assessment. The biggest difference is a technology threat assessment is analyzing your business infrastructure, your technology infrastructure, the lifespan of the equipment that we have. How it's a little bit deeper. It's sort of a mini audit, you might say. And HIPAA, while it's a great HIPAA and HITECH are very broad. A technology threat assessment goes a little bit deeper into areas that are more prone to attack, right? So is it email phishing? Does our website present us with an issue? Does our VoIP system present us with issues? And then furthermore, the way those individual subset areas are configured, maintained, it's that presenting a problem. Many times, you know, a HIPAA gap analysis really isn't going into the network infrastructure, how it's built. But a TTA, a technology threat assessment, does do that. Is our practice set up with Active Directory? Or are we set up like a work group? Many small dental practices are set up like small work groups. That presents a lot of risk from an IT perspective, right? So it's a lot deeper on the technical side than HIPAA gap analysis. As you're familiar, HIPAA is more focused on controlling that patient data when you get out of the chair or you're in OP6, right? And that patient's lying down in the chair. Well, dentists will commonly say, well, the only thing on the screen they can see is their information. Well, not necessarily. And have so that would be a HIPAA gap analysis. A TTA would take that further and say, well, have the USB ports on that specific device been locked down?
Okay.
Because if not, a patient with nefarious intent, which we've worked this case, definitely seen this, pops a thumb drive in that tower or in that workstation and starts pulling data out of it.
Wow. Okay. All right. Next question. Encryption. So you mentioned encryption everywhere. So does all email that is going out of a dental practice need to be encrypted? And is Gmail hosted email automatically encrypted?
So Gmail is not automatically encrypted, but for the first question, yes, I recommend to our partners, let's encrypt everything. Let's encrypt our emails. We need to look at each practice case by case. For the most part, Microsoft is, but there are options within Microsoft that you can add some security encryption layers to each outgoing message. It's in the option field in the top of the menu. Gmail, you know, guys, there are plenty of articles about this, but no, you don't assume anything is encrypted. You got to take a little extra effort to encrypt the data properly. So hopefully that answers your question, but you can't just say, hey, I'm a G Suite, Google Suite client, and I'm good. No, you're not. We've got to audit that. We've got to make sure of that. So there are several ways to encrypt it. Yeah.
Next question. Retention policy. When you say 6 years is all you need, then with a 6-year retention policy, does that mean that any patient who has not been seen in the last 6 years is purged? Or does it mean all data that is 6 years old or more gets purged?
So that's a discussion we have with each dentist or each, medical organization. 6 would be the HIPAA. I've had a hard time convincing dentists. Again, I just tell it like it is. I have a hard time convincing dentists to purge data older than 6 years old. Most of our dentists will cut it off at 8 or 9, sometimes 10, just to have some degree of protection and get rid of that old stuff. And I get it. I understand why, because you are trying to give the best possible care to those patients that trust you, with their dental hygiene and their dental needs. So I get it. But the key is, if you want to save that data, a retention policy can be, okay, Dr. Jones, we're going to take the data that's 6 years, year 7 or older than 6 years, and store it separately away from the network, accessible by computer, that is air gapped, that doesn't touch the internet. So there are ways, again, a policy doesn't mean you have to get rid of it forever, but we can set up and structure the environment in such a way that a nefarious actor can't get to that old data. And by default, we're lowering our risk in the event of a major cyber incident. Does that make sense?
Very good. Okay, so next steps. One, if somebody wants to make sure that they are HIPAA high-tech compliant, have a technology threat assessment done, and walk through all the steps that you've outlined, how do they get in touch, Brent, with you and your team to tap into all of your genius here?
Awesome. So you can visit Control Alt Protect, controlaltprotect.com. You can email me directly. It's very easy, Brent at controlaltprotect.com or sales@controlaltprotect.com. I've got, plenty of staff on standby that handles those incoming requests. You can call my cell phone. I don't mind giving that. I do that. I don't do that for everybody, but I do it for our crowns. So I'll definitely provide that. We can send that out in an email to everybody as well. I'll make sure you have it. But controlaltprotect.com is the easiest way to reach our cyber team and our client success managers.
Excellent. Okay, second scenario. If in the event, this is just plan for the worst and expect the best, right? So let's just say that someone watching, someone listening experiences some type of a breach. What is the 911 solution to get in immediate contact with you and your team before they do anything? And I'm assuming this is what you'd recommend, right? Call you first before you do anything, before you respond to a hacker, before you report the breach, before you do anything. Talk to Brent and your team so that you can walk them through the correct steps. Am I right?
Yeah, correct. So you can dial 877-CYBER-911. You can email helpnow@controlaltprotect.com. Again, you can reach us through the website. We get a lot of cries for help there. The first thing you need to know is don't take the advice of your IT person immediately. You need a second person to weigh in to triage and remediate. It's what we call instant response. Before you touch anything, you need somebody looking over the shoulder of all parties to ensure that you're legally protected. We commonly see with cyber cases, the IT person formats, deletes data off of an infected device. And that may or may not be the best treatment plan for your scenario. Oftentimes, the defense you need, how did you get infected? How did your practice? What's the vector of attack? If you wipe that, if you format that, you could be removing the only defense, legal defense that you have to prove that your CPA or your lab or this marketing company or this voice over IP company, or I'll pick on one like Mango for AI because I know it's popular in dentistry. Whatever, how do we know what's the forensic trail that proves the vector of attack? If your IT guy deletes it, there goes your defense. So yeah, 877-CYBER-911 or helpnow@controlaltprotect.com.
Got it. Very good. Brent, thank you for your expertise. Very well laid out and explained, and gives us a roadmap for what we need to be doing now, not only to be compliant. I think this is more than just being compliant. This is about protecting, being safe, and preventing unnecessary loss and unnecessary situations that can be prevented.
Absolutely. No question. Thank
So
you.
thank you, Brant. Thank you to your team at Control Alt Protect. Appreciate your ongoing wisdom and help in a very, very important part of the practice. And as you said, man, patient data it's like gold in a dental practice, right?
No
Without that,
question.
we are out of business. So thanks so
Very
much for
true.
your expertise and sharing with us during National Safety Month. So
It's great to be with you. Thank you.
thanks
Been an
everybody
honor.
for being part of Crown Council Live today. And every Thursday, this is the spot, 12 o'clock Central, where we have the opportunity to explore different ways that you can create and maintain a culture of success in your practice. So thanks for joining us. I'm Steve Anderson. We'll be back with Stuart next week. I'll be here, as well as the team from Protect It Dental, who will be doing an entire seminar training session on emergency preparedness and what you need to do to prepare for the worst and expect the best, but always be in a position where you know what to do in the event of the unexpected. So thanks for joining us, and thanks for being here for Crown Council Live. Bye, everybody.